On a stiflingly humid Tuesday morning in mid-August, Ryan Mitchell stepped out of his old pickup truck in the heart of Maplewood, Georgia. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm orange hue over the small southern town. Ryan, the newly appointed police chief of the Maplewood Police Department, wore faded jeans, a worn blue t-shirt, and scuffed work boots. A simple baseball cap shielded his face from the sun's glare. He had chosen to arrive unannounced, wanting to gauge the true state of the department without the gloss of a formal introduction. The Maplewood PD had seen better days, with whispers of internal corruption and accusations of misconduct floating around long before Ryan's appointment. He was fully aware of the challenges he faced as a black man stepping into a leadership role in a predominantly white police department. Ryan anticipated resistance, but he was determined to make a difference, not just friends. The parking lot was alive with activity. Officers leaned against their patrol cars, sipping coffee and exchanging jokes. Others moved in and out of the precinct, clipboards in hand. Ryan adjusted his cap and entered through the side entrance of the station. The familiar scent of stale coffee and worn leather filled his nostrils as he walked slowly, taking in the surroundings. At first, he went unnoticed. A tall black man, dressed casually, blending in as if he were just another visitor. That was precisely what he wanted. "Hey you! Lost or something?" A sharp voice broke through the low hum of chatter. Ryan turned to see a white officer approaching him, his badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The nameplate read, Officer John Thompson. His smirk was cutting, and his eyes were cold. "This isn't a shelter, buddy." Behind him, two other officers leaned against a desk, smirking at the unfolding scene. Ryan stayed silent, his steady gaze fixed on Officer Thompson. As the officer stepped closer, his grin widened. "Did you hear me? You don't belong here. Take your dirty boots and get out." The other officers laughed, their amusement echoing through the hall. Ryan felt his jaw tighten, but he remained composed. Years in law enforcement had toughened him for such encounters. Just as he was about to respond, Thompson leaned in, spitting in Ryan's direction. The warm saliva hit Ryan's cheek, and he felt time freeze. Laughter erupted once more, ringing harshly in the hallway. Taking a deep breath, Ryan reached into his pocket, pulled out a neatly folded handkerchief, and wiped his face with deliberate calmness. "Is this how you treat everyone who walks through these doors?" he asked, his voice low and controlled. Thompson smirked again, shrugging nonchalantly. "Only those who don't belong." Laughter rippled through the onlookers once more, as Ryan turned and walked purposefully down the hallway, toward the briefing room, leaving Thompson and his audience behind. Inside the precinct's briefing room, officers gathered, coffee mugs in hand, chatting and sharing stories. At the front stood Captain David Reed, a burly man with sharp features and graying hair. "All right, everyone, settle down," Captain Reed bellowed, and the room quieted. "As you all know, Chief Anderson retired last month. Today, I'm proud to introduce our new Chief of Police. He brings decades of experience, a distinguished career, and a vision for this department. Please welcome Chief Ryan Mitchell." From the side entrance, Ryan stepped forward, causing an immediate hush to fall over the room. All eyes turned to him, including Officer Thompson's, whose face turned pale as recognition dawned. Ryan walked confidently to the podium, placing a folder embossed with the Maplewood PD seal in front of him. He scanned the room, making eye contact with every officer present. "Good morning," Ryan began, his voice steady. "My name is Ryan Mitchell, and as of today, I am your new Chief of Police." A heavy silence filled the air. No one dared to move. Thompson's face reddened, his hands clenching into tight fists. "I arrived this morning unannounced," Ryan continued, his voice sharp but controlled. "I wanted to see this department with unfiltered eyes, and what I witnessed was eye-opening." A low murmur rippled through the room as Ryan raised a hand, restoring silence. "This morning, one of your own officers disrespected not just me but the badge, the oath, and the community we serve. And he did it while laughter echoed in the background. Let me be clear, this behavior ends today." Thompson shifted uncomfortably, his bravado evaporating under Ryan's piercing gaze. "Respect is not optional. It's the foundation of everything we do in law enforcement. Without it, we fail. Not just ourselves, but the community that looks to us for protection. Ryan let the tension linger for a moment before continuing. This incident wasn't merely a mistake. It reflects a culture that has been allowed to fester here. But that culture changes now, and for those who cannot rise to meet this change, this may not be the place for you. The room remained silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Ryan stepped down from the podium and walked towards Thompson, stopping just a few feet away. "Officer Thompson," Ryan said, his voice low but firm. Thompson flinched, his earlier confidence gone. "When you spat on me this morning, you disrespected this department, the badge, and the community we serve. That is unacceptable." Thompson stammered, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't know." "That's the problem," Ryan interrupted sharply. "You didn't care to know. You didn't think before you acted." Turning his attention back to the rest of the room, Ryan declared, "This is not about punishment. It's about accountability, and it starts today." He turned back to Thompson one last time. "Effective immediately, Officer Thompson. You are suspended pending an internal investigation." A collective gasp filled the room as Thompson's face turned crimson, staring blankly at the floor. Ryan returned to the podium. "This is just the beginning," he asserted. "Accountability, respect, integrity. These are not mere suggestions. They are requirements. And each of you will be held to that standard." As Ryan concluded, the tension in the room was palpable. The first step toward change had been taken, but Ryan understood that this was just the start. As you reflect on Ryan's journey and the challenges that lie ahead, we invite you to share your thoughts and engage with us. Your voice matters. Stay tuned for more updates from Flourishing Tales. The briefing room had emptied, but the tension from the earlier confrontation lingered in the air like smoke after a fire. Ryan stood alone at the podium, his hand resting lightly on the folder he had just presented. Officer Thompson had stormed out moments earlier, his pride bruised and his future uncertain. Ryan exhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the morning's events pressing down on him as he made his way to his new office. Located at the end of a dimly lit hallway, the office was modest. A worn wooden desk, mismatched chairs, and walls lined with faded photographs of past department events. A small window let in slivers of sunlight, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air. As he sat behind the desk, Ryan replayed the morning's events in his mind. The spit, the laughter, and the cold indifference in Thompson's eyes. It wasn't merely a matter of one officer's behavior. It was a reflection of a culture that had taken root over years of unchecked actions and silent complicity. Ryan's thoughts were interrupted by the buzzing of the phone on his desk. "Chief Mitchell speaking," he said, trying to steady his voice. "Chief, it's Captain Reed. I've started pulling Officer Thompson's records as you requested." It's not good, sir." Ryan leaned back in his chair, gripping the phone tighter. "How bad are we talking?" "Multiple complaints over the last 3 years. Excessive force, inappropriate language during arrests, racial profiling, all swept under the rug by the previous administration." Closing his eyes briefly, Ryan felt a familiar anger rise within him. He had encountered this pattern before, officers abusing their authority, shielded by a culture of silence. "Get me those records by the end of the day, Captain, and let the internal affairs team know I'll need their full cooperation moving forward." "Understood, Chief." With that, Ryan hung up and turned his chair toward the window, staring out at the streets of Maplewood. The people outside, mothers walking their children to school, teenagers riding bikes, shop owners opening their stores, deserved better, and he was determined not to let them down. As the days passed, Ryan made it a priority to walk the halls of the precinct every day. He greeted every officer he encountered, taking the time to introduce himself to those he hadn't met yet. However, beneath the polite exchanges, he could sense an undercurrent of resistance. Whispers flitted through the break room. "He's just here to stir things up. Did you see what happened to Thompson? The guy's career is over. Let's see how long he lasts." This resistance didn't come as a surprise. Change was rarely welcomed with open arms, especially in an environment where toxicity had been allowed to thrive. Nevertheless, Ryan remained undeterred. One afternoon, while reviewing paperwork in his office, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Ryan said, his curiosity piqued. The door creaked open, and Officer Emily Carter stepped inside. Young and determined, she had sharp green eyes and an air of resilience about her. "Chief Mitchell, do you have a moment?" she asked. her hands nervously twisting the cap she wore. "Of course, Officer Carter. Please, have a seat." Emily sat down, her posture tense as she glanced at the door, as if expecting someone to barge in at any moment. "Chief, I've been with the department for 3 years. I've seen things that aren't right." Ryan leaned forward, his tone calm and encouraging. "Go on." She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's a culture here, sir. Officers like Thompson, they do whatever they want, and nobody stops them. The younger ones, like me, we just stay quiet because speaking up feels like career suicide." Ryan nodded slowly, understanding the fear she felt. "But you're speaking up now." Emily met his gaze, her eyes steady. "Because I believe in what you said. The accountability, the respect. I want to do this job right, but I can't do it alone." A flicker of hope ignited within Ryan. There were still individuals like Emily, officers who wanted to serve with integrity and uphold the values of the department. "Thank you for your honesty, Officer Carter. You're not alone in this. I'll need officers like you, those willing to stand up for what's right." As she left the office, a renewed sense of determination surged within Ryan. He knew that change wouldn't come easily, but it was possible. Outside the precinct, the issues that plagued the Maplewood PD extended into the community. Trust between the police and the citizens was frayed, hanging by a fragile thread. Ryan decided to confront this challenge head-on. He organized a community open forum at the local Maplewood Community Center, distributing flyers across town to invite residents to voice their concerns directly to him. That evening, as he stood on a small stage in front of a room filled with skeptical faces, Ryan felt the weight of his responsibility. Mothers clutched their children's hands, shop owners crossed their arms, and teenagers sat at the back, their expressions filled with distrust. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Ryan began, his voice steady yet warm. "I'm Ryan Mitchell, your new chief of police, and I'm here to listen." A man in his 50s, wearing a denim jacket and a baseball cap, stood up, his voice shaking with anger. "Chief, my son was pulled over last year for no reason. The officer humiliated him in front of his friends and made him sit on the curb like a criminal. And guess what? That officer walked away without offering an explanation." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "I hear you, sir. And I'm deeply sorry that happened to your son. No one should be treated that way." Another woman spoke, her voice trembling. "We don't trust your officers, Chief. Every time we see those lights in the rearview mirror, our stomachs drop. We're scared." The vulnerability in her voice silenced the room. Stepping forward, Ryan scanned the faces before him. "I can't change the past. I can't undo the harm that's been done. But I promise you this. I am here to rebuild this department, brick by brick. We're going to hold our officers accountable. We're going to root out those who abuse their power. And we're going to earn your trust back, one interaction at a time." The room remained quiet, and while skepticism hadn't vanished, Ryan could sense a faint glimmer of hope amid the crowd. After the forum, he stayed behind, shaking hands, listening to stories, and promising to follow up. Among them was a young boy named Jaden, who shyly approached. "Are you really the chief?" "Yes, I am," Ryan replied with a warm smile. "My mom says the police don't care about people like us." Ryan knelt to meet Jaden's eyes. "I'm here to change that, Jaden. If you ever need help, you can come to me." Jaden smiled and nodded, and as Ryan walked back to his car that night, he knew the road ahead was long. Maplewood PD wasn't just a department, it was a reflection of the community it served. And fixing one meant fixing the other. For the first time since his arrival, Ryan felt a powerful sense of hope stirring within him. As Ryan Mitchell settled into his role as the chief of the Maplewood Police Department, he found himself grappling with the complexities of leadership. The days following Officer Thompson's suspension were filled with tension, as some officers resented Ryan's direct approach, viewing him as an outsider intent on disrupting their established way of doing things. However, among the older officers, a few began to quietly reassess their own behavior, recognizing that a shift in culture might be necessary. One Saturday morning, Ryan attended a community event at the local Trinity Baptist Church, a central hub for Maplewood's Black community. The pews were packed, the air thick with a mix of frustration and cautious hope. Pastor Michael Johnson introduced Ryan to the congregation, his voice resonating with authority. "Brothers and sisters, this is Chief Ryan Mitchell. He's here not just to speak, but to listen. Let's give him the chance to hear our concerns." Ryan stood at the podium, feeling the weight of many eyes upon him. Removing his police cap, he took a deep breath before addressing the congregation. "I know that trust isn't given lightly, it's earned. I understand that the uniform I wear represents pain for many of you here today. I can't erase the past, but I can assure you that as long as I'm your chief, this department will serve everyone in Maplewood with respect, integrity, and accountability." A young boy, no older than 10, stood up, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "My dad says the police don't care about us. Is that true?" The room fell silent as Ryan stepped away from the podium, kneeling to meet the boy's gaze. "Son, I can't change what your dad has seen or felt, but I can promise you this. I care, and I will make sure every officer in my department cares too." The boy nodded slowly, and his mother pulled him close, tears glistening in her eyes. As the meeting wrapped up, Ryan found himself surrounded by community members eager to share their stories, some filled with hurt, others offering tentative support. It was a beginning, a fragile bridge built on vulnerability and sincerity. Back at the precinct, Ryan continued his daily rounds, making a point to walk through the hallways and engage with the officers. He stopped to chat, ask questions, and listen to their concerns. He implemented mandatory training on implicit bias, de-escalation techniques, and community engagement. While some officers embraced the changes, others resisted, including Officer Thompson, who had filed an appeal against his suspension. The investigation into Thompson's past revealed a troubling pattern of behavior. Multiple complaints of excessive force, verbal abuse, and discriminatory actions, all previously dismissed or lightly addressed under past leadership. When Thompson's appeal was officially denied, he resigned in protest, claiming he was being unfairly targeted. His departure sent ripples through the department. For some, it served as a wake-up call, while for others it drew a line in the sand. Nevertheless, Ryan remained resolute in his mission for reform. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan sat at his desk, reviewing case files and reflecting on the challenges ahead. Captain Reed knocked and entered the office, a look of cautious optimism on his face. "Chief, it's been a rough few weeks, but I think they're starting to see it, the change. The new recruits and younger officers are paying attention," he reported. Ryan nodded, exhaustion evident in his posture, but determination clear in his eyes. "Change takes time, James, but it's worth fighting for." In the weeks that followed, Ryan focused on community engagement, organizing events where officers could interact with residents in a casual, friendly atmosphere. He hosted barbecues, participated in local fairs, and attended neighborhood watch meetings, making himself visible and approachable. Slowly but surely, the perception of the police began to shift. During one such event, Ryan noticed a group of teenagers hanging back, their expressions skeptical. He approached them, introducing himself and asking about their interests. After some initial hesitation, they began to share their thoughts on the police, articulating their fears and frustrations. Ryan listened intently, acknowledging their feelings and promising to work hard to earn their trust. As summer turned to fall, the atmosphere in Maplewood began to change. Officers who had once been resistant started to open up, engaging in conversations about better practices and accountability. Ryan encouraged them to share their experiences and insights, fostering a culture of collaboration rather than one of hostility. Despite the progress, Ryan knew the road ahead was still long and fraught with challenges. The scars of the past were deep, and rebuilding trust would take time and consistent effort. He made it a priority to keep communication open, holding regular meetings where officers could voice their concerns and share ideas for improvement. One day, while Ryan was preparing for a community outreach event, he received an unexpected visit from Officer Carter. She walked into his office, her expression serious. "Chief, I've been reflecting on everything that's happened since you joined us," Emily began, her voice steady. "I want to help. I believe in what you're trying to do. I want to be part of the change." Ryan smiled, a sense of pride swelling within him. "That's exactly the kind of attitude we need, Emily. Thank you for stepping up. Together we can make a difference." As she left his office, Ryan felt a renewed sense of hope. Change was a slow process, but with dedicated officers like Emily and a supportive community, he believed they could reshape the Maplewood Police Department into an institution that truly served and protected every member of the community. And as he prepared for the next chapter of this journey, Ryan knew that the path to change was not just about policy adjustments and training sessions. It was about building relationships, fostering understanding, and inspiring a collective commitment to justice and accountability. As the leaves began to change color in Maplewood, Ryan Mitchell felt a renewed sense of purpose. The community outreach initiatives he had implemented were starting to bear fruit. Residents were beginning to engage more with the police department, and the atmosphere was slowly shifting toward one of collaboration and trust. However, Ryan understood that there was still much work to be done to truly bridge the gap between the police and the community. Determined to foster this connection further, Ryan organized a series of town hall meetings, inviting residents to come and share their concerns, ideas, and experiences. He wanted to create a platform where everyone felt heard and valued. The first meeting was set for a Thursday evening at the Maplewood Community Center, a venue known for its central location and accessibility. On the day of the meeting, Ryan arrived early to ensure everything was in place. As he set up the chairs and arranged the seating to encourage dialogue, he was joined by several officers from the department, eager to support the initiative. The buzz of conversation grew as community members arrived, some with visible apprehension, while others appeared curious and hopeful. As the meeting commenced, Ryan stood at the front, looking out at the gathering crowd. He could see a mix of familiar faces, some who had supported him from the start, and others who wore expressions of skepticism. The room was filled with a palpable energy, and Ryan could sense the importance of this moment. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Ryan began, his voice steady and inviting. "I'm here not just as your chief of police, but as a member of this community. I want to hear from you about your experiences and what you believe we can do to improve our relationship." A woman in her 40s raised her hand and spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. "My son was stopped by an officer last year for what seemed like no reason at all. He was terrified, and I was horrified. The officer treated him like a criminal, when all he did was drive home from school. How can we trust you if this continues?" Ryan nodded, acknowledging her concern. "I'm truly sorry that happened to your son. That's exactly the kind of behavior we're working to change. I want to ensure that our officers treat everyone with respect, especially our youth. We're implementing new training programs to address these issues directly." The room responded with murmurs of agreement, and Ryan felt a glimmer of hope. He continued, "Tonight is about open dialogue. I want to hear your stories, your frustrations, and your hopes. Together, we can find solutions." As the meeting progressed, residents shared their experiences, some filled with anger and hurt, while others expressed a desire for collaboration. A local shop owner stood up, recounting how police presence in the neighborhood often felt more like an intimidation tactic than a source of safety. "We want to feel safe, but we also want to feel respected and valued in our community," he stated. Ryan listened intently, taking notes and asking follow-up questions. He emphasized that understanding and rebuilding trust would take time and effort from both sides. "We're committed to being transparent," he assured them. "We want to break down the walls between us and work together to create a safer environment for everyone." As the evening wore on, Ryan noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Residents were beginning to engage with one another, sharing not just their grievances, but also some ideas for positive change. A young woman suggested organizing community events where police officers could participate in local activities, fostering friendships outside of formal policing. "That's a fantastic idea," Ryan responded, his enthusiasm palpable. "Building relationships outside of patrols will help humanize our officers. We want to be seen as part of the community, not just enforcers of the law." The meeting concluded with a renewed sense of hope, and as people began to leave, many approached Ryan to express their gratitude for creating an open space for dialogue. He felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing that they had taken a significant step toward healing the rift between the police and the community. In the following weeks, Ryan and his team worked diligently to implement some of the suggestions made during the town hall meeting. They organized community events, including basketball games, picnics, and educational workshops where officers could engage with residents in a relaxed setting. These initiatives not only allowed officers to connect with community members on a personal level, but also provided opportunities for residents to voice their concerns in a constructive manner. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Ryan attended a community picnic at a local park. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter, as families gathered to enjoy food, games, and music. Children played tag while parents mingled, sharing stories and enjoying the day. Ryan was pleased to see several officers mingling with the crowd, playing games with the kids, and introducing themselves to families. As he walked through the park, Ryan spotted the young boy he had spoken to during the town hall meeting. Jaden was tossing a frisbee with a couple of officers, laughter ringing in the air. Ryan approached, kneeling down to Jaden's level. "How's it going, champ? You having fun?" "Yeah." "They're cool," Jaden exclaimed, his face lighting up with a smile. Ryan's heart warmed at the sight of the young boy feeling comfortable around the police. As the day came to a close, Ryan reflected on the journey they had undertaken together. The road to rebuilding trust and fostering a positive relationship between the Maplewood Police Department and the community was long and challenging. But each step forward brought them closer to a shared vision of safety and respect for all. Ryan understood that, while progress had been made, the work was far from over. He remained committed to listening, learning, and leading the department with integrity, ensuring that the Maplewood Police Department would continue to evolve into an institution that truly served and protected every member of the community. As autumn deepened in Maplewood, the changes within the police department began to take root. Ryan Mitchell had spent months focusing on community engagement and building trust, and while the initial resistance had lessened, challenges still loomed. Some officers were adapting to the new culture, while others remained skeptical, clinging to the old ways. Ryan knew that genuine transformation required patience, perseverance, and a relentless commitment to accountability. One brisk morning, Ryan gathered his command staff for a meeting to discuss the next steps in their reform efforts. The atmosphere in the room was a mix of tension and determination as he addressed the officers seated around the table. "We've made progress, but we can't afford to become complacent. The community is watching us, and we need to continue proving that we're serious about accountability and transparency." Captain David Reed, a veteran officer with years of experience, nodded in agreement. "I believe most of the younger officers are on board, but some of the veterans are still resistant. They've been doing things a certain way for a long time, and change doesn't come easily." Ryan acknowledged the concern. "I understand that, but we need to make it clear that our department's priorities have shifted. We can't allow a few individuals to undermine the progress we're making." As the meeting continued, they discussed strategies to reinforce the values of accountability and respect. Ryan proposed implementing regular training sessions focused on community policing, de-escalation techniques, and implicit bias. "We need to ensure that every officer understands the importance of these principles and how they impact our interactions with the community," he emphasized. Encouraged by the discussion, the team left the meeting with a renewed sense of purpose. Over the following weeks, Ryan and his staff organized a series of workshops and training sessions, inviting experts to lead discussions on effective policing strategies. They encouraged open dialogue, allowing officers to voice their concerns and share their experiences. Despite these efforts, some officers, particularly those who had been with the department for many years, remained resistant to change. Ryan noticed that Officer Mark Jenkins, a seasoned veteran, was often dismissive during training sessions, rolling his eyes at new concepts and expressing skepticism about the need for change. His attitude had a ripple effect, influencing other officers who looked up to him. One afternoon, Ryan decided it was time to address the issue directly. He invited Officer Jenkins into his office for a one-on-one conversation. "Mark, I appreciate your years of service, but I've noticed your resistance to some of the changes we're trying to implement," Ryan began, his tone respectful yet firm. Jenkins leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms defensively. "Chief, I've been doing this job a long time. I know what works, and this touchy-feely approach isn't going to cut it on the streets." Ryan maintained eye contact, determined to bridge the gap. "I respect your experience, but the world is changing. Our community is demanding more from us, and we need to adapt if we want to maintain their trust. This isn't about disregarding your experience. It's about evolving to meet the needs of the people we serve." After a moment of silence, Jenkins uncrossed his arms, a hint of uncertainty crossing his face. "I get that, but it's hard to break old habits." "Change is never easy," Ryan replied. But we can't let fear of change hold us back. The community deserves better, and we owe it to them to do our jobs with integrity. The conversation marked a turning point for Jenkins. While he didn't immediately embrace all of the new initiatives, he began to participate more actively in training sessions and discussions, gradually opening up to the ideas being presented. Meanwhile, Ryan continued to prioritize community engagement. He organized neighborhood watch meetings and met with local leaders to discuss ongoing concerns. One evening, he attended a meeting at a community center, where residents gathered to voice their opinions on policing in Maplewood. As the meeting progressed, a woman in the audience stood up, her voice filled with emotion. "I want to thank you for listening to us, Chief, but I still worry about the safety of my children. How can we be sure that things will really change?" Ryan stepped forward, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. "I understand your concerns, and I want to assure you that we're committed to making real changes. We're working hard to ensure that every officer is held accountable for their actions. It's a process, but my promise to you is that we will keep working until we earn your trust." The room was silent, and Ryan could feel the skepticism still present in many faces. But he also sensed a flicker of hope, a willingness to believe in the possibility of change. As the weeks turned into months, Ryan witnessed a gradual transformation within the department and the community. Officers began to embrace the new culture, recognizing the value of community policing and the importance of building relationships. Ryan's commitment to transparency and accountability was starting to pay off, and the community's trust in the police was slowly being rebuilt. One day, as Ryan walked through the precinct, he noticed a group of officers gathered around a table, discussing a community outreach event they were planning together. They were animated, sharing ideas and brainstorming ways to engage with residents effectively. For the first time, he felt a sense of pride in his team, a realization that they were becoming a united front dedicated to serving the community. However, Ryan knew the journey was far from over. The road to lasting change was long and required continuous effort from everyone involved. He remained focused on his mission, determined to lead the Maplewood Police Department toward a future defined by respect, accountability, and a genuine partnership with the community. As he prepared for the next steps in their ongoing journey, Ryan understood that the work they were doing was not just about changing policies. It was about changing lives and restoring hope in a community that deserved nothing less. 6 months had passed since Ryan Mitchell first stepped into the Maplewood Police Department, and the transformation was becoming increasingly evident. The precinct, once filled with tension and resistance, now buzzed with a different kind of energy, one of collaboration, respect, and renewed purpose. Ryan stood in the hallway, watching officers interact with each other and with community members who came into the station. There was a noticeable shift in their demeanor, more smiles, more attentive listening, and a genuine effort to serve with dignity. The walls of the precinct were now adorned with photos of officers participating in community events, certificates of appreciation from local organizations, and letters of gratitude from Maplewood residents. Each item represented a small victory in the ongoing battle to rebuild trust between the police and the community they served. Ryan's office had also undergone a transformation. No longer just a space for paperwork and meetings, it had become a symbol of his open-door policy. Officers and community members alike knew they could approach him with concerns, ideas, or simply to have a conversation. On a crisp autumn morning, Ryan sat at his desk, reviewing the latest community satisfaction survey results. The data showed a significant improvement in public perception of the police department, a testament to the hard work and dedication of the entire team. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called, looking up from his paperwork. Officer Emily Carter entered, her posture confident and her expression bright. "Chief, I wanted to share something with you," she said, placing a folder on his desk. "These are the results from our youth outreach program. We've had over 50 teenagers participate in the mentorship initiative, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive." Ryan leafed through the pages, a smile spreading across his face as he read testimonials from young participants. One quote in particular caught his eye. "I used to be scared of the police, but now I see they're just people trying to help. Officer Carter showed me that." "This is incredible work, Emily," Ryan said, genuine pride in his voice. "You've made a real difference in these kids' lives." Emily beamed, her eyes reflecting the satisfaction of meaningful service. I couldn't have done it without your support, Chief. You've changed things around here, given us permission to be the officers we always wanted to be. After Emily left, Ryan decided to take a walk through town. He strolled down Main Street, greeting shop owners and residents along the way. Many returned his greetings with warm smiles and friendly waves, a stark contrast to the wary glances he had received when he first arrived. As he passed the local diner, he noticed a familiar face. Jaden, the young boy who had questioned him at the community forum months ago. Jaden was sitting at a table with his mother, and when he spotted Ryan, his face lit up with recognition. "Chief Mitchell," Jaden called out, waving enthusiastically. Ryan approached their table, smiling. "Hey there, Jaden. How have you been?" "Good. I joined the Police Explorers program last month. Officer Carter is teaching us about being a police officer. It's really cool." Jaden's mother reached out to shake Ryan's hand. "I want to thank you, Chief. There's been a real change in how the police interact with our community. For the first time in years, I don't feel anxious when I see a patrol car in our neighborhood." Her words touched Ryan deeply. This was exactly what he had been working toward, a community where the police were seen as protectors and partners rather than threats. Later that afternoon, Ryan attended a graduation ceremony for the department's newest officers. As he stood at the podium, looking out at the fresh faces, he felt a profound sense of responsibility and hope. "Today, you join a department that is committed to serving with integrity, compassion, and respect," he addressed the graduates. "The badge you wear is not just a symbol of authority. It's a promise to protect and serve every member of this community with fairness and dignity." The new officers listened intently, their expressions reflecting the seriousness with which they took their oath. Ryan continued, "The work we do is challenging. There will be days when you question your path, when the weight of this responsibility feels overwhelming. But remember this, every interaction is an opportunity to build trust, to show that we are here to serve, not to intimidate." As the ceremony concluded, Captain Reed approached Ryan. "You know, when you first arrived, I wasn't sure how things would play out. Change isn't easy, especially in a department as set in its ways as Oz was. But you've proven that leadership with integrity can transform even the most resistant cultures." Ryan nodded, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken together. "It's not just me, David. It's every officer who was willing to look in the mirror and commit to doing better. It's community members who gave us a second chance. Real change happens when everyone decides that the status quo is no longer acceptable." That evening as Ryan drove home, he passed by the park where they had held their first community picnic. Children played on the swings while parents chatted nearby, a scene of ordinary life unfolding peacefully. It struck him that this was what good policing was about. Not just responding to crises, but creating an environment where people felt safe enough to live their lives without fear. Back at his modest apartment, Ryan stood by the window, gazing out at the town he had come to care for deeply. The journey was far from over. There would be setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt, but a new foundation had been laid, one built on respect, accountability, and the belief that every person deserved to be treated with dignity. As the lights of Maplewood twinkled in the distance, Ryan felt a profound sense of purpose. This was why he had become a police officer all those years ago. Not for power or authority, but for the opportunity make a difference, to protect and to serve. If you've been moved by Ryan's journey of transformation and leadership, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you most about this story? Share your reflections in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Flourishing Tales for more inspiring stories of courage and positive change. Your engagement helps us continue creating content that matters.